everyone, Miss Nancy here after a long break from doing book reviews, but we're going to get back on track, and today I have some wonderful middle grade fiction for you that I think you're going to like, so let's just dive right in. The first book is called The Secret of Dreadwillow Carse. Let's see if I can get this where you can see it. And it's by Brian Ferry. It's a very, very nice coming-of-age tale that is set kind of in a medieval, fantastical, paranormal place. There's a monarchy, and it's ruled by a queen, but this is a place where everything is bliss. No one is allowed to feel sadness, and everybody truly is happy, happy, happy. But at the edge of the land is a place called the Dreadwillow Carse. Now, in Scotland, a carse is a low-lying, fertile valley, but in this book, it is a deep, dark forest full of horrible trees and shades and just really bad. The main character's name is Aon, and she's a commoner, and she is the only one in the monarchy who can feel sadness. She doesn't know why. She also knows that if she goes into the Dreadwillow Carse, all of her sadness is taken away. So she likes to go there, and thus begins the mystery. The other main character is Juvenile. And Juvenile is the daughter of the queen. She is the pending successor, and the queen is not well, and she's going to end up taking over the monarchy at the age of 12. And all her life, her mother has told her, don't you ever, ever, ever go into the Dreadwillow Carse or the monarchy will fail. So eventually, Aon and Juvenile team up to figure out this mystery about the Dreadwillow Carse. What is up with this? So what I loved about the story is that it kept me turning the pages. The descriptions were very well done. The characterizations of the girls, the young girls, was perfect. And at times it was a bit scary, but the book provides readers with a nice lesson about how sadness and happiness have to coexist, or everything is really messed up. Juvenile ends up having to make a decision that's going to affect the entire kingdom, and it's not an easy one. So you follow her deliberations and her anxiousness about that. So I loved this book. It's called The Secret of Dreadwillow Carse by Brian Ferry, and I hope you try it. The next book I have is by one of my favorite picture book authors. It's called The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. And Peter Brown is very well known for his beautifully illustrated and wonderfully written picture books like The Curious Garden and My Teacher is a Monster and Beauty. This is his first juvenile novel. He says it took him 2 years to write it. The story involves no humans, just factory-made robots that are shipped somewhere in the world, and animals. And at one point in the beginning, there's shipping containers of these robots on a ship, and a violent storm happens, and a lot of the containers spill overboard. On one island, 5 robots wash up. Only one is left intact and functioning, and this is Roz. And when she comes to life, she first acts like a total machine. The animals are just terrified of her because they've never seen anything like this. But in time, she develops an empathy and a humanness about her that drives the rest of the story. She becomes a mother by accidentally killing 2 geese and their eggs, except 1 egg. So when that egg hatches, the gosling imprints on her. And that begins another amazing part of the story. The story is deceptively simple, but the lesson is very profound. Underneath, there is a story about how everyone needs to come together, even enemies, as a village and as a cohesive team. It's a little glimpse into what can happen when people put aside divisiveness and greediness and move through life in unity. It's also a story of sacrifice for others, so I like that part about it. The illustrations are beautiful. Brown does a beautiful job. He has a lot of different kinds of illustrations in his picture book, so there's not an immediate, oh, that's a Peter Brown book kind of moment when you look at his books. But I would say this is most like My Teacher is a Monster. And it's just a wonderful tale. So try The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. The next book is just a remarkable book, and it has remarkable in the title. It's called The Remarkable Journey of Charlie Price. Now, at first you think you're going to read a story about kids moving through grief and dealing with the loss of family members, and that it's going to be just this typical read about that. But Jennifer Mascari, the author, takes us on a totally different kind of journey of grief. Adults know the concept of magical thinking, where you think that if you think that something will happen, it will, even though reality and the facts and evidence are the total opposite of what you're thinking. So Mascari has taken this concept of magical thinking to help 3 kids deal with the loss of a family member in a very extraordinary way. So Charlie and his sister Imogen have lost their mom to death, and their friend Frank has lost his beloved grandmother. As the story moves along, all of a sudden Frank disappears. No one can find him. And then Imogen disappears. And Charlie doesn't know where she is, but he finds this sort of magic door or trap door under Imogen's bed, and it brings him into an alternate world where everything is wonderful and your dead loved one is alive, well, and everything is perfect. So of course you don't want to leave, and you don't want to go back to reality. But Charlie notices something very, very strange. And the strangeness is that staying with his mom, he learns, is dangerous because it's not his mom. The book is beautifully written, and all the descriptive elements are done expertly. The kids who read this should come away with an understanding that what everybody wants, the stuff of their dreams and their imaginings, especially if it's better than the reality. In the long run, it really is better to accept reality. So I urge you to try The Remarkable Journey of Charlie Price by Jennifer Mascari. Great story. The next book I just love, 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 and it's called The Key to Extraordinary by Natalie Lloyd. This is Lloyd's second book. She came on the scene about a year or so ago with A Snicker of Magic, which I reviewed earlier in one of my earlier videos. I loved it. And this is her second middle grade novel. Emma Pearl Casey lives with her grandmother Blue in a small Tennessee village called Blackbird Hollow. She helps with her grandma's Boneyard Cafe, which is right next to a graveyard, so hence the name. And she misses her mother very much, who has died. All the women in Emma's family have what is called a destiny dream, a dream that tells you what extraordinary thing you are going to do or be in your life. And Emma is still waiting for her dream. She hasn't had it yet. In the meantime, she is trying to save the cafe from purchase by someone who wants to destroy it and try to find this treasure that is rumored to be buried around the town somewhere. Lloyd is just an excellent middle grade writer. She has a way of phrasing very complex concepts so kids can understand them. And I think my favorite line in the whole book is, "Fear is just a flashlight that helps you find your courage." I love that line. And I think it really helps kids understand the value of fear and how it connects to courage. The story has very strong but real characters, and the flashlight image itself just appears all throughout the book. It's a wonderful coming-of-age tale where Emma thinks the treasure is one thing, but it turns out to be quite another, and something more valuable than money, which is what she's really looking for to save the cafe. I was honored to meet Natalie Lloyd at the Texas Library Association conference this past April, and our library copy of The Key to Extraordinary is signed by her, so pick it up. I would love to see every family read this aloud because Lloyd's primary message, actually in both of her books, is that each and every one of us is marvelous and extraordinary. This happened to make next school year's list of Bluebonnet Award nominees, so I think a lot of kids will be looking at that list and trying to decide which ones to pick up, and I hope they pick up The Key to Extraordinary by Natalie Lloyd. And my last book was just a fun book that I picked up, and I just loved it. It's called Warren the 13th and the AllSeeing Eye. It's got a really weird cover, and it is kind of a perfect mix of humor and mystery and spirit animals and magic and much more. The plot is that Warren the 13th is this kid, and he comes from a very long line of luxury hotel operators. His father, Warren the 12th, has died suddenly, and now Warren, at the tender age of 12, has got to run this luxury hotel. His uncle Rupert comes along to help him do it, but Rupert is lazy, and he lets the hotel become a wreck. Meanwhile, Rupert's wife is bent on and determined to find something called the AllSeeing Eye, which she believes will give her the power to rule the world, and Warren has to stop her. What I loved about this book is that the story is just fun. It is full of action and really weird characters. Warren himself is not your typical kid, but he has some qualities that he will need to stop Aunt Anaconda, which is another thing I liked, and that was some of the character names. The illustrations are just amazing. There is not one two-page spread that doesn't have an illustration. So I can open anywhere in this book and you will see illustrations. They're all done in black, white, and red. There's a lot of typeface. I don't know if you can see this. Typeface changes to spur the story on. The chapter titles are really cool. They're kind of old-fashioned, like Chapter 4, in which Warren is sent to the boiler room. And he looks like a really goofy kid. It's just marvelous. I just loved what Stale did with the illustrations. Everything turns out okay in the end, and that's another thing I like about this book. But there are so many twists and turns that it really keeps you guessing. And a really cool thing about this book is it was written by Tanya Del Rio, but the characters themselves were imagined by Will Stale. And unlike a normal picture book where the author writes the words, and if the author is not an illustrator, then an illustrator is chosen to bring the story to life through images. This was kind of a flip of that because Will Stale had the characters, he drew the characters, and then the writer was chosen to bring those characters to life. So I thought that was kind of cool part of this book. So try Warren the 13th and the AllSeeing Eye, written by Tanya Del Rio, illustrated by Will Stale. I think you're just going to enjoy it. And that is all I have for you today. Keep watching. We'll have more book reviews coming up. And have a wonderful day and keep reading.